Pledge
Pledge allegiance
to
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
it stands, one nation,
under
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thanks everyone for coming tonight, and introduction of those present.
Right. This is Kristen Powers speaking. So many people here tonight. This is wonderful. Welcome, everybody. I am going to run through the attendance list and indicate who's here. If your name comes up as something different and you wish to be indicated in the attendance list for the purpose of the minutes, feel free to send me a message via the chat. Friendly reminder too, before I get started, so this meeting is recorded for the purpose of PEG TV. All questions, comments, concerns can be addressed to our chairman this evening, Mike Beecher. Everybody is muted, and a friendly request to remain muted unless you are speaking this evening. And making sure to identify who you are before you speak so that we can all know who's who. So also, forgive me, because we have a large group, I have to scroll through multiple pages to see everybody's faces. So as we look for hands up and things like that, I appreciate any patience anybody might have to spare this evening. So without further ado, attendance for this evening, members in attendance, we have Mike Beecher, John Malcolm, Bob Jones, Jessica Van Ort, and Rich Hewlett. Others in attendance, we have myself, Kristen Powers, Mark and Doreen Frost, Keith Whitcomb, Carla Crossman, Dan Brooks, Colin Stabile, Maureen Brown, John Knorr, Chuck Whedon, Harley Cudney, Olivia McChesney, John Sabatka, Jennifer Sullivan, Sarah Hannon, Ruth Lampy, Stormview Angus, Carol Schoenwetter, Deb Hawkins, Rhonda Schlangen, Julie Mack, Bob and Martha Schoeneman, and Keith Mason, and Frank Nelson. I think that's everybody. I will continue to add people's names to the attendance as they come in. Thank you.
Is there any addition or deletion to the agenda items tonight, Kristen?
Yes, so Kristen again. So we do have a couple of things to add. There is a topic of the emergency management director and that role, which we do have a report to discuss this evening, and I thought maybe the board could speak about the future of the emergency management director role during that time. Additionally, the Pawlet Volunteer Fire Department is looking for some approval and assistance in ordering new flags that need to be posted on the flagpoles. So I thought that could be discussed during new business. And also the board received an email with interest to the Spruce Gum property. I don't know if you want to discuss that. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. There was an email that came in and I asked that somebody get back to the person interested. So I think those were the only three things. It was a very, very busy couple of weeks with emails. So I'm trying to keep it all straight. So if anything else comes up as we're going, I will let you know. But I think that's all for me. I'm not sure if anybody else had any adds. It looks like Jessica's hand is up.
Yes, this is
Go ahead,
Jessica. Did we add the COVID relief funds to new business as well?
Thank you. COVID.
Because I did attend the a workshop earlier today, and I do have a bit to report out on that.
Thank you. I meant to say that, Jessica.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, sounds like we got that. Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. How did everybody feel about the minutes? I didn't see anything that I had any question about.
This is Jessica. I'll move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second for that?
John will second.
John will second that motion to approve the minutes. All in favor? Rich? Oh, you muted yourself, Rich.
Yes.
Yes. Jessica?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Carried. Is there any previous requested appearances?
Mike, this is Kristen. There were no formal pre-requested appearances. I'm not sure how you're going to want to handle this. There were, as the board all saw, there were a bunch of emails that came through regarding the topic of inclusivity, which is slated to be discussed during ongoing unfinished business. Several people had requested that statements be read aloud in the meeting. There were over 45 messages that came through, and so I don't know how you want to handle that. I'm personally not prepared to read all of them. So
Right.
I have a list of everybody who's written and how people are feeling about it. So I did let everybody know that I didn't know if there would be time. I just want to make sure that I'm clearly communicating what's going on. So
Okay.
no formal pre-requested appearances. There were just a number of folks that requested that their opinions be shared at some point.
Okay, so but that will all come up then under that old business.
Sounds great.
I'm wondering if we can, is there any way that well, I don't know quite how to make sure that anybody that's interested in hearing all that can hear all that.
If I may, this is Kristen. Anybody that
Please.
is interested in hearing any or viewing any specific words or statements, I have all of that via email and would be happy to forward. So I guess maybe we can continue to approach this when we get to it on the agenda.
Okay,
But just wanting to be sure that's something that we don't lose track of. That's
great,
all.
thank you.
Yep.
Is there any announcements?
This is Kristen again. The only announcement from me is that the radar speed signs have officially been ordered and we're on track, and we will be in touch about delivery of those soon. And Keith, I have made sure that as soon as I know, I will communicate it with you so that you guys can add that to your schedule.
Kristen,
Yes.
they were actually delivered to Dave Ricard yesterday. So he has made arrangements. I believe he was going to contact Keith and get those delivered to Keith or to the town hall.
Oh, wonderful.
That's good news.
That's great news. They told me it was a 2-week delivery delay. So surprise, surprise.
They were on his doorstep yesterday.
Wow. All right. Well, then scratch that announcement.
Good.
I've just FYI, I've talked to Dave and they're in the West Pawlet garage. So
Okay, sounds good. We'll come up with work on a plan to get them together. I know you got a lot going on right now. We'll see what we got to do. Okay, thank you. Zoning administrators report.
Yep. So this is Kristen. Jonas is unable to attend the meeting this evening. However, he did send a report over not long ago. He shared that 2 recent permits have been issued. One is for a pole barn and one is for a guest house. He'll be working with Keith in regards to an appeal process that's in need of happening. He also shared that Harry Van Meter has begun work on compiling a database for permits, beginning with the file from 2004. The plan is to start with the file from 2004 and move forward until they reach 2018, which I imagine is where we're up to in terms of electronic file storage. Once they hit 2018, they're going to start with 2003 and move backwards with the e-filing, as Jonas has recently had to go back to 1994 for some permits for some reference points. So he feels that this whole database project is a really great start for some of the filing concerns we've been facing over the last couple of months. And that's all from Jonas.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody have any questions from the administrator's report? Okay, We're all good with that. Planning Commission. Jessica, is there anything this week or not?
No report. We will meet next week.
Okay, thank you. Road Foreman's report.
Okay, hi, it's Keith. We swept Monday, so the sweeper did West Pawlet and Pawlet villages, so that's done. We removed the culvert on the Buttons Falls Road that was failing, and we've got a patch in there, and other than that, it's ongoing on the Hare Crook Road. So, one request I have is I want to consider hydro seeding. We've got it's 2,700 feet long, and if we have 20 foot of bank there, it's easily 50,000 square feet of ground to seed there. And I don't think there's a huge availability of hay right now. And I think for what we can hire it done for, the potential is there to just have somebody come in and we'll work with them and they can seed it. We're looking at, I've talked to two people, Ryan Davenport and Leon Corey, 10 to 12 cents a foot for either one of them to do it. Leon, both of them have got a similar machine. It'll do about 10,000 square foot to a load. So if that's the case, we could, by the water quality standards, we're not supposed to have any large bank open for more than 5 days. So we could seed it. Each time we had room to do a tank full, we would spray it on there and it would be done. And I just think the time savings from us chasing hay and chasing seed and getting a bale mulcher and everything else, it's worth consideration.
Okay. What does was that anything that was calculated into the project cost or?
Was not put into the project cost, no, Mike. It is a justifiable expense for the grant process though, so.
Okay. So I'm trying to figure, what do you think that's gonna end up turning into for the complete project amount?
Well, I think you're probably gonna end up with $4,000 anyway worth of spraying there, worth of seeding.
Okay.
And I'm thinking if you're gonna go buy a few bags of seed at $100 and some a bag, I don't know how many hay bales. I don't know. I don't have a good reference as to what a hay bale will cover square footage wise. So I don't know, but if you look at hay bales at $5 a bale and it takes a couple hundred to do that, which that's my guess is on the low side, I think you're going to be in $1,000 worth of hay and $500 worth of seed. And us, if you figure our time running to Manchester, renting a bale chopper more than once, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I just think if we can get somebody to seed it, we're just as far ahead.
Okay, that doesn't seem like an unreasonable idea. What does anybody else think on the board? Is it everybody okay with that, or do we want to have some more options, or?
This is Rich, Mike. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, Rich. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to let Keith know, I've got a round bale chopper that would blow that, if you could find some old round bales, would blow hay right up onto that bank, probably a good, 40, 50 feet from the edge of the road, if that's something that would work for you, if we could find some mulch round bales.
They might be easier to find than square bales. I don't know. I mean, I'll have to venture out and look. I'll do that, see what we have it's a grinder that'll blow it right up on there.
Yeah, it's a round bale chopper. Yep, you set the round right in the back of it, and it's got a spout right off the right-hand side. You can angle the spout, and the higher you rev that tractor, that'll throw that stuff a good 50 feet anyways.
So are you going to provide the tractor too?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Find some round bales. I mean, that's the next thing, right? Is finding the round bales, but
Well, it is. Hay is a little scarce. I don't know. I haven't pursued it. I do know that we generally get quite a lot from Scott Cleveland when we need it. And I know doesn't have much of anything. And, so I haven't ventured beyond that, but I will look around and find some round bales because that would be a time saver too. And we'll look into that before we commit to the hydro seeding maybe.
So you guys can discuss that and see if that's a more viable option that will save us some money.
Yep.
And work into the schedules. So there's a few other options about round bales and stuff too. You can check into. Chuck, you probably know a few people might have some round bales kicking around, huh? Okay. How's the rest of the project starting to look, Keith?
It's coming together. I mean, basically what we've done so far is stump it. We're 90% done stumping. I've got 2 stumps there that are a little more than we can manage, but we'll see. We'll figure something out here. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. They may get buried on site or something like that, just because we can't load them. I don't think I can barely move them around. So we'll, other than that, it's going well.
Okay.
We're probably 90% stumped. We'll be done mid-morning tomorrow. They're all pulled and we just got a few left to haul away, and then we'll start cutting the bank and putting the culverts in. So.
And then after you get that done, then you have to place the stone on the stream bank.
We have, right. We've got the retaining walls to build on the stream bank, and then we're ready to start putting the rock down. So.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Everything seems to be going in.
Riley Williams is promising plenty of material and willing to load it. So I think the sooner we get there, the better, because it's becoming popular, I guess. Granville has been over to see him about getting a bunch of it too. So we want to make sure we get what we need before it's gone. So.
Okay. That's good. What about the old truck, the old 550 Dodge?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're just going to have to put a figure on it, Mike.
Okay.
What people throw out there depends on who you talk to. Everywhere from 4,500 to 10,000 to, I mean, it's just, it's whatever somebody's willing to pay for it, I guess. I mean, I would think we would want a minimum bid or reserve the right to reject any and all bids and see what they come in at and go from there.
Okay, I guess probably the key is going to be getting it advertised well.
Right. Is that something you want me to work with Kristen on?
Yeah, I guess what you said that we had good luck selling that other Mack truck with what was it, a municipal site or something?
It was a municipal site. It was, I think Tim put it on Craigslist, but we had, okay. I mean, I don't know. He put it on a Friday, and when I got to work Monday morning, I had 50 emails or something, and the answering machine on the phone was full. So if we advertise it like that, we got to have a dedicated price to put on it.
Right.
Keith, this
okay. Rich, go ahead.
Has anybody looked on the internet to see what a comparable truck is valued at?
Yeah, and it varies, Rich. It's, in the price range I was talking, depending on a few things, the municipal trucks don't seem to bring the top dollar. You'd expect some of them to, they've lived in a hard environment for, that's a 2008 vehicle, and people buy them in anticipation that they're going to put some money into them to make something out of them. And they don't, sites I look at, when you get to they want to give you average trade value and things like that, but they don't really they go up to a 3,500 pickup truck. But when you get into a 1-ton dump or a 5,500, which is, a little more, they don't, the Kelly Blue Book and all them things don't even include them in their values. So I don't know where to look. Maybe you do. I don't know.
Well, I know out in Western New York, they have those municipal auctions. We may be able to go onto those sites and see what those trucks are selling for. Every year they have those auctions where they sell the loaders and trucks and dump trucks and in 1-tons. We could probably use that as a reference or a starting point.
Right.
I can get that information for you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for the road foreman? I'm guessing no. Okay. Thank you very much, Keith.
Thanks, guys.
Assessors report. John, do you have anything to add from the assessors this meeting?
I don't. I haven't heard from them. Haven't
Okay.
gone to see them.
Okay.
Kristen, have you gotten anything or,
This is Kristen. I have not.
okay. Hopefully they're working on the grand list.
Yes.
Okay. Town clerk's memo.
Yeah, I'm here. I only had 2 things. I sent it to everybody. There is, from the library, there are some rental contracts that need to be signed. There's like 3 or 4 of them for Bob when you come in tomorrow. And there was only one other thing. I can't remember what it was.
Updated office protocol.
Yep, we updated the office protocol, sent everybody a copy of that. And the real estate researching has slowed down a little bit, but it's not at a halt yet, but it has been a little quieter than it has been. And that's all I have to say if anybody has any questions.
I guess everybody all set? Any questions for Deb? Okay, Deb, thank you very much.
Yep. Well,
We're on to town treasurer's memo.
So this is Kristen. Julie, I just heard from Julie and I am going to provide her report this evening. So I'm just pulling it up. Okay. So the treasurer's memo for May 18th, 2021. There are 2 warrants to be signed. Payroll for the week was $8,649.98. The total accounts payable was $24,358.26. Sorry, there's a random phone in here. I'm going to mute it. That was distracting to me, if not for everybody else. Monies from the general fund, $12,828.67. Highway, $15,683.48. Wastewater, $4,496.09. Due to the expense of the chart recorder for the wastewater treatment facility, I had to transfer $2,000 from savings to cover the expenses. I had all of the bills done early this week as I received my 2nd vaccination today and wasn't sure how I would feel. However, the credit card bill just arrived and is due on June 1st. Can you please authorize me paying this bill for $267.66? I will include it on the next warrant, but issue payment early next week. Friendly reminder to wastewater users that the final installment is due on June 10th. Anything paid after June 10th will be delinquent and subject to penalty and interest. The drop box is still available for check and money order payments. I would imagine if anybody is wanting to pay cash, please contact Julie ahead of time to make an appointment. Respectfully submitted, Julie Mack. So it looks like the one, aside from the warrants, the one item with a request is the authorization to pay the credit card bill.
I think that was probably for that permit too. I think the last meeting we talked about a permit or something we had to file with the state.
Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion for the warrants?
Don will.
John made a motion that we pay the warrants. Do I have a second on that?
Rich will second.
Okay, Rich second. Motion made and second to pay the warrants. All in favor? Rich?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Carried. Any other question for the town treasurer's report? And
Mike?
that was, yes,
It's Keith. I think the credit card bill is our green up fees.
okay,
Yeah, I think that's the $200 and some was disposal of the stuff we took over on green up day or after green up day.
oh, okay.
Hmm.
All right, that makes sense then.
So this is Jessica. Do we need to have a motion to approve that she pay the credit card bill?
Yeah, probably it's better that we just do it separately because it wasn't part of the warrants. So
All
will you
right,
make that
then.
motion?
Yes, I do make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second on that motion?
Mike, this is Bob. I'll second it.
Okay, Bob, second it. All in favor? Rich?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed to pay the credit card bill also. Emergency Management Director's report.
Kristen again. We have a report from Bob Morlino. This is from April of 2021. COVID-19 updates continue to be posted daily to the Facebook page to keep residents informed. Bob participated in 2 COVID-19 conference calls this month with the Vermont Emergency Management and other emergency entities, submitted the annual update of the local emergency operations plan, submitted the Rutland Regional Planning Commission Public Works Mutual Aid Agreement designated officials form. And that's all.
Any questions? Health Officer, did he have a report too?
Yes, so the Pawlet Health Officer monthly report from April was made a second call to the bank regarding the property with open waistline and a basement. Made call to landlord regarding rental inspection of the property on Route 149. Submitted by Bob Morlino.
Okay,
And then,
so the
sorry, you're all you.
big part of the health officer's report is the fact that his term expires at the end of May this year. And he shared with me in an email that he no longer wishes to do that job. And we need to appoint someone. But we haven't even had anybody that has been interested, even though we've been trying to promote that job. Does anybody have any ideas who may want to fill the role of health officer? Kristen, go ahead, please.
This is Kristen. Just not an idea, but a suggestion. Perhaps we could revisit the job description, which has been on the website. And it seemed that I heard that there was a Front Porch Forum, which I don't know much about, but there was kind of a call to action to solicit feedback on a certain topic on Front Porch Forum, and it got a lot of action. So perhaps we could place the job description on a more visible platform like Front Porch Forum and see if that gets more attention.
This is Jessica. Just a little bit about Front Porch Forum. I did post the select board's request for comment on Front Porch Forum this past week, because I know last time we had wanted to get comment on that statement, and we had said we would put it on Facebook and on the website, which I know were already done. And I spoke to Deb, and I think it was you, Kristen, also, asking if the town had an official Front Porch Forum what do you call it? Account.
Yeah.
Yes. And we did not. And so I posted it as myself as a select board member and just put up John's statement and said we sought comment.
Yeah.
So it does seem like we got a lot of comment that way. And if we were to post a job opening, I think that would be a good place to post it. However, I would feel much better if the town of Pawlet had an official account, because it would be nice to have it coming from that and not from an individual name.
Definitely.
What does it take to make an official account with the Front Porch Forum?
Mike, this is Kristen. I can certainly look into that and let you know. I do think it's fairly simple. But what I can offer to do is kind of gather some ideas of maybe some avenues in which the town might be able to get a broader reach than just say our website, which is where our position openings are listed now. So looks like Frank has a hand raised. when you're
Frank?
ready for that.
Go ahead,
just-
Frank.
Thank you, Mike. Just as a suggestion, maybe if the board or somebody contacted the community health clinic, or if there's any medical professionals or nurses, anybody in the field who might be interested, because they do have training in this area, see if anybody's interested from them and they just don't know about it yet. Thank you.
That's a very good point, Frank. What would be the best way to see? I don't know. Does anybody know of any organization that may have that they could advertise it in, that would local people that have already some experience in that field would be a beneficial candidate for certain.
Mike, this is Bob Morlino.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
got on just a few minutes ago. And it's on my wife's computer here. So there are very few medical professionals that actually are health officers. Usually it's just someone who is interested in doing something for the town. There's even though it's called health officer, it's primarily a position in which most of the time is spent on the rental housing code for rental housing and for septic systems that are failed, things of that nature. So it doesn't need to be a health professional. I'm not a health professional, and as I said, there are very few health officers that I'm aware of that are health professionals. I'm not saying that that wouldn't be a good person to have as a health officer, but it's certainly not necessary.
Okay. So I just see one post that Jennifer is interested in learning about this. Bob, would you be willing to speak with Jennifer if Kristen could connect you, if she wanted to learn more about this position?
Absolutely. Yep. I can explain what the job is, and I've done it for eight or 9 years, I guess, and can certainly tell her what's involved. Yep. Be happy to.
Okay.
This is Kristen.
Kristen, go ahead, please.
I will certainly introduce the two of you.
Yeah, fine. You have my telephone numbers, Kristen. You can feel free to, and my email address, feel free to pass it along.
Great. Will do.
Mm-hmm.
So is everybody okay with posting this on the Front Porch Forum too, if Kristen can determine a way to set up our own account?
This is Kristen. If I may, perhaps I can connect Jennifer and Bob, and then following that conversation, maybe we can go from there.
Okay. that would be good. Okay, anything else from the health officer standpoint? Wastewater treatment, we haven't had any new updates from Jill or anything. Just working on getting the, I think there was one phosphorus or something report that she had to do that she was taking care of, and I haven't heard any more about it. But other than that, apparently everything seems to be running okay because I haven't heard different. Any other questions about the wastewater treatment? Okay, older unfinished business. The diversity, equity, inclusivity continued. There was a great deal of feedback on this via emails. All of us board members saw quite a lot of emails in regard to this whole statement, and mostly it was all crafted around John's statement. There were some emails, Kristen, that people had asked to be read.
Yes, this is Kristen. There were a couple of people that had requested that statements be read. Some are here this evening. I made a list.
I don't mean to interrupt. I got one little thing here. Before we get into this, I just want to update everybody on that piece of property in Spruce Gum.
That's good.
So Clarence Ritchie got that property all cleaned up. I've got a bill here. I'll email it to Julie. The bill's for $7,300. So he came in at the bottom of what he said he was going to charge to do that. So that's good. And also Rick Bro had stopped to see me and just expressed his interest in that property as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. I guess that's it for that piece of property.
Okay, we'll have to get with the delinquent tax collector and the treasurer so that we can determine the amount of money that we have into the property. So that will be one of our next step to come up with a number of what the town needs to recoup between legal fees, et cetera.
So if we put it up to closed bid or however we do that, if it sells for more than the town has in it, then the additional proceeds go back to the original owner. Is that how that works?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would go back. I believe Hersom was the last owner on record. John?
I'm aware, isn't it, that he has not been able to be located, or he or them, or
So he hasn't answered any of the messages is what we were understood.
but he might recognize a check.
Yeah, probably. If Ben Franklin came knocking at his door, he'd probably open it, you know?
Okay.
So that's Kevin O'Toole will have to advise us on all that. He's the one that handles all that property transactions for us. But I think that, it seems like there's several people interested in the property, and we'll need to do something, but we'll need to, have some way, a fair way for everybody to get a crack at it. And but we need to at first find out how much we need to recoup. So Chuck, do you have your hand up there?
I certainly do. This 153 property's been a little bit of a thorn, but as far as the sale, you got to remember, board, that when that property is sold, there's added expense. So we ought to have some sort of an idea of what that added expense is before you ever cash any money out to try to send back to the previous owner, which is not in my favor, but I know that's the way that we have to do it. Thanks for allowing me to speak, Michael.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, so there's more work to be done to come up with numbers before we can have a sale of that property so that we can make sure that we get what we have invested. Any more on that? Any questions or comments? Kristen, go ahead, please.
This is Kristen, just in a similar, as you're talking about tax sales, something to consider is that the board received an email from Kim Ayers, who's our delinquent tax collector, regarding the need to determine a COVID-friendly event space for said tax sales, which they anticipate will happen sometime in September. They acknowledge that it's a little ways off and likely a lot will change in regards to COVID restrictions, but that's something I wanted to mention that while this topic was mulling about.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll go back to the diversity discussion that you were working on, getting some information there, Kristen.
Yeah, so this is Kristen. So there were 41 individuals that contacted the Pawlet Select Board at gmail.com email address, expressing their favor of the inclusivity statement, whether it be specifically John's statement or just expressing the fact that they felt that this was something that would be important to our town. A lot of the messages some were quick and some were longer, but there were 41 folks who wanted to express to the board that they were in favor. There were 2 emails and 3 individuals who were in favor of not adopting a statement. Both of those emails were not necessarily saying that nothing should be done. They were more just saying that perhaps a different stance could be taken, rather than moving ahead with a statement. So if you would like me to read names, I'd be happy to. I'm not quite sure. In my 3 years with the board, it's the most amount of emailing I've done in a 2-week period. So I tried to make sure I responded to everybody and acknowledged everybody, but I just am not quite sure the most time appropriate way to go through all of it. So that is what I did at least want to present to the board, just some basic numbers.
Is there some way that you feel you could compose those in a section? So if somebody wanted to electronically get those emails and read them, we could mention in the minutes that they would be available if somebody wanted to do that? Or...
Yeah, this is Kristen again. Certainly I could formulate a Word document or a PDF document with all of the messages in one, and I'd be happy to make that available.
Mike, this is Rich.
Okay, Rich.
Wouldn't it make sense to post that on like the Front Porch Forum? A lot of people may feel uncomfortable asking for information like that. And if all that was posted for everybody in town to see, and not necessarily have to call you and say, hey, this is so-and-so, I want to see this information. I think that might be easier for folks to get their hands on. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be a good approach.
This is Kristen again, if I may, Mike.
Yes, please.
The board has run into some troubles in the past with sharing and posting individuals' messages and emails. It's become a bit of not troubles in a bad way, but just kind of like, a small pebble that starts to roll and turns into a giant snowball. And then like in terms of like attaching things to minutes and then like publishing things alongside the minutes. And last year, the board had made a determination that we would not share individual letters or correspondences in conjunction with minutes. I don't know the answer to the Front Porch Forum suggestion. I'm only just sharing what, from a assistant standpoint, what had been requested of me in previous years in terms of sharing beyond just what is minutes and agendas. So.
Okay, that's a good point, because we did go through that and to make sure that, and we don't even post the reports from the committees or anything like that, correct?
That's right. This is Kristen. Again, it's just the purpose of the minutes is purely just to discuss what has been discussed at a meeting. So if an individual requests to be on the agenda or speaks during the meeting, and a decision is made based on something that somebody says during the meeting, that is what is required to be provided in the minutes. Reports, letters, additional things beyond, that are beyond the request of the chair of the board are not required to be a part of the minutes, as per the standards. There are a couple hands that are raising, and I just want to clarify, I'm not saying this to be secretive. Everything that comes through the select board email is public record, so anybody is welcome to request it. I'm just personally, I have not had experience in this yet, so I always like to try to tread lightly because there are so many rules that I try to keep track of to follow. So
it certainly is something that we've never run into before in my experience with the electronic transactions and stuff that have come in regarding this statement. So I guess we need to calculate a way that maybe we should even talk to the Vermont League to see how the most and the correct way to share all this input is.
And one other thing I will say, so never has it been made habit that people's letters have been read aloud. When COVID happened, just as a little background information for everybody, when COVID began and we shifted to this online platform and some people couldn't make it, there were a couple of people here and there that were like, I have this question for the board. Can you please bring this up during the meeting? And because I had never been through it before, I said, sure, and now this is just a new experience. So we've never, in my experience, have never had to, address portraying written word. So yeah, and there's a question that had come through about whether or not phone calls are public record. I don't believe that they are, unless a phone call was pre-recorded and pre-warned. But I just know that from an official select board email, I know Deb has it on hers. I have it on my email signature. It's public record. So.
Frank, you have a question?
Yeah. Hi, Mike. All these notices that came through to the select board through Kristen, she ran some numbers and absolutely none opposed this general direction of inclusivity. 3, but they didn't oppose it though. They had other opinions, but they didn't oppose it outright, I would imagine. Correct, Kristen?
This is Kristen. There were two folks who expressed some opposition, and another individual expressed opposition, but in a productive way, coming up with some alternative suggestions. So.
Okay, but generally, the opposition was to John Malcolm's statement that was pushed out. Correct? So they just were probably thinking maybe something else may be proper or better, whatever. So the history of Vermont going way back to the Constitution was anti-slavery, only state in the Union. John and Malcolm was a historian, I think, would testify to that. And also the history of Vermont going back to LGBTQ has been the most progressive and first in the state for legalizing marriage, etc. So in this, I think that in polling at the time of the gay marriage was vastly, hugely in favor, not opposing. There was a website that I saw which said that there was some controversy, but it was basically a lot of people didn't give a hoot. But ultimately, the messages that came through, the select board can vet through those messages, but the select board had elected representatives in the town. The buck stops at the select board. They're elected to come up with this solution and vote on it as the buck stops at the select board members as duly elected. So I think the select board really has to polish this up and finish it off as part of their responsibility one way or the other. We don't need to have a lot more spreading of everybody's viewpoints around because it's ultimately going to be the select board's decision. And we don't have to muddy the waters with anything else. It's pretty clear what we need to do, and that is to adopt a statement that's somewhere along what John was proposing, which is a pretty good statement. And if anybody else has any other suggestions as to the wording, they should come up with specific wording, and the select board talk about that. But I think it's a no-brainer myself, out of respect for the history of Vermont. Really, it's who we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Bob and Martha?
Thank you, Mike. I essentially wanted to say something very similar to what Frank just said, that I feel it's more important that the members of the select board have read all these emails. Have you had a chance to do that?
I believe most of us all have. John?
I will make the comment that I received more emails that did not go through Kristen's site. So there are more numbers out there than not that it changes the difference between different opinions, but there were more than the ones Kristen said.
So Mike, could I continue? I actually wasn't finished.
Yes. Okay, please do.
Okay, so I understand that all of you have seen the emails that came to Kristen, maybe not everything that went to John individually, or maybe to some of you individually. One of the questions that Bob and I had submitted was there another or more than one alternative that the board was considering in addition to John's? A different version of an inclusivity statement.
Well, we had looked at a couple other ones, and Jessica had brought up one, I believe, from Brandon. Jessica?
This is Jessica. Yes, the statement that I brought up is the one that was adopted by Brandon and quite a number of other towns. And in fact, between our last meeting and this one was adopted by Rutland City as well, by their Board of Aldermen.
So,
But that one was not seconded, so I withdrew it.
So I am in agreement with Frank that it seems to be in your hands as a select board to make a decision about either using John's statement or submitting some others to all of us so that we can read the others. But it seems like there's a lot of favor in town about having something like this. And again, to mention how Pawlet has been portrayed in the news in the last 6 months, it's really, we have to counter that with something positive. So thank you for letting me speak, Mike.
Thank you.
Mike, this is Rich.
Rich?
So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you have sent John's statement to Merrill Bent, our town lawyer. Is that correct for review?
Because of all the input that we got, I felt it was prudent to send it to Merrill to have it reviewed, but I have not got any answer back from her yet.
Okay.
Harley Cudley has his hand up.
I think he's muted.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Harley. Still nothing.
Harley, this is Kristen. I've requested you unmute. There should be a little notification box that comes up on your screen. There you go. Oh. Unfortunately, we still can't hear you.
Perhaps his microphone isn't functioning.
Okay, looks like he'll be right back. I'll look out for him.
Is there any other hands up, Kristen? I can't see at this point.
Not, this is Kristen, not that I can see. Mike, I did have one suggestion that came through in terms of sharing this information. Somebody did contact me and stated that it could be an idea that the board, you know, if this is something that the board and the town is looking for a more robust feedback from, you know, from all of our townsfolk, it could be something that could be considered to put on an upcoming ballot. I know that that's a long way away, but it could be potentially something that's a line item in a vote, and it could be put out to vote for the town. That was something that was brought to my attention, and I just felt pertinent to share.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more comments or discussion about this while we're trying to see if Harley can get his, Jessica?
Yeah, this is Jessica. I just also want to sort of back up what Martha said, that if what was sent by the folks of this town is any indication, we have about 95% of the town that is behind this statement. And polling numbers like that don't happen. I mean, when something is in favor of 70% of people, it's considered kind of a landslide. So I think that first, our request for feedback that we put out at the last meeting was a good idea and got a great deal, as Kristen said, of engagement from many people in the town, more than any other topic that has come up, and overwhelmingly positive engagement. So I think the voice of Pawlet is pretty clear. And I'll reiterate what I said last time. I think that making such a kind and wonderful statement as John wrote harms no one and helps many. And I think that we should adopt it.
Okay, and as Rich said earlier, with all the feedback that I got and some questions that occurred to me, is every word in that statement correct? And I felt that it was most prudent to have input from our legal advisor on all our town business before, and I was hoping that I may get it, but it wasn't very early that I had a chance to send it to her. So I haven't got feedback yet because she's only working partial hours. But with today's modern society and the way everything is read and interpreted, I wanted to make sure that everything we had was in order. So that's where I stand with it right now.
This is Jessica again. I
Jessica?
wonder, since there is so much, I know a lot of people are here tonight about that topic, and there's been so much feedback. If it is the will of the select board to adopt John's statement, would it be possible to move that we do so pending the legal approval? Because I do agree that it was good to have it looked at legally, but I know that at the vote last time, everyone spoke well of John's statement and just was waiting for a little time to think it over and to get more feedback. And I feel like drawing it out further when we do have a statement that has met with great approval, both from the board and from the town, would just be kind of, I don't know why we would do that.
Mike, this is Rich.
Rich, go ahead.
So, I'm not going to speak for all the board, but I feel that everybody is in favor of a statement. I feel as an elected official, one of the challenges we face is we have a responsibility to keep the town safe, keep it safe from being sued or whatever liabilities we may face. And without having the town lawyer look at it, say we tell somebody that they're, we guarantee that they're going to be safe in this town. I mean, how do we police that? And say if somebody moves here based on our statement and they do get discriminated against by an outsider or by somebody in this town, we can't control that, but then they could possibly, I don't know if they can or not, that's why we sent it to the lawyer, but could someone then come back on the town and say, hey, look, I moved there because they have a statement that says that I'm going to be safe in their town and accepted. And yeah, we're all for that, but there may be somebody out there that discriminates against them. And then are we going to be held liable as a town? I'm not a lawyer. I don't know that. Meryl is. I think we have a responsibility as a board to get her take on it and go from there.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody? Is Harley back on track or?
Okay, can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, you can go,
Yay!
Harley.
My first question is the minutes that were approved showed the statement from Mr. Malcolm, but I saw a version at Front Porch Forum that was a longer statement, and so my question is the statement in the draft minutes that were posted by the town the full, complete statement?
Go ahead, John.
The statement, the fuller one you may be talking about, included a paragraph of preface in that for the statement. The statement that I'm proposing starts with the town of Pawlet and goes for 84 words.
Thank you.
The preface was just to introduce to people that may not be aware of this discussion is happening.
Thank you. And then a question or a request. The meanings of the words that are in the statement are very elastic. And I was brought up understanding meanings for some of the words, and it seems to be changed lately. If there will be a statement by the town, I believe it's the town's responsibility to define the terms clearly, or there will be an impact on the freedom of speech. It would be an unconstitutional abridgment of our freedom of speech. Thank you.
Okay. Mara?
Hi, this is Mara Hurst. I'm just wondering, in regards to the legal counsel stuff, if there was any opportunity for select board members to touch base with other towns or the League of Towns and Cities in regards to how other towns have handled, the wording and the impact. And, there's so many towns that are talking about not just statements, but how their town can act on those statements as well. And I'm just wondering if there have been any connections with other towns. Thank you.
Jessica? Do you have
This
an
is
answer
Jessica.
for-
I have a little bit of an answer for that. Mara, I did contact Vermont League of Cities and Towns before the previous meeting, and they sent me to their page of guidance. And their guidance listed a number of statements that different towns had made. The statement that I proposed last time is the one that has been adopted by the most towns. And I do not know what kind of legal guidance they have all gotten on it, but I mean, Rutland City would not be likely to have adopted something without some sort of legal guidance. Much of the language in the statement that John has written is similar to the language in a statement the town of Johnson adopted. So I have not personally spoken to folks from these other towns, but I have looked at their statements, and in many cases, they have followed them up with sort of further plans of how each town, I believe Middlebury in particular, followed up with plans, like a step-by-step plan of how the town was going to implement the noble goals in their statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen?
You're muted.
I actually basically had the same question as Mara. However, I wanted to add that Phil Scott also, and I did send the article to be forwarded to select board members this week, that Governor Scott also made a proclamation of diversity and declared last week, I think it was the 9th through the 15th. I could be getting the dates wrong. Diversity Week, perhaps I don't have the correct term. I don't have the article right in front of me, but I'm guessing that the state of Vermont has done some due diligence regarding the legalities of a proclamation. So I'm wondering if anyone took the time to read that article and to see what the wording of that proclamation was about.
Yes, I did read that article. I have a copy of that proclamation in the folder with the rest of the proclamations here that I've reviewed from time to time. And they're all very, very similar and all quite similar to the Constitution of the United States and the state of Vermont too. It's just a few small words of phrasing that are slightly different, and the one that John has proposed. And I just feel that it's very important to make sure that we have that reviewed before we vote on it. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments or?
Yep.
You see any hands up, Kristen? I'm not doing very good at scanning.
Yes, Maureen's hand is up and Frank Nelson's hands are up.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions before we go back?
I think that's all at this moment that I can see, Mike.
Okay, Maureen?
I am curious to know what the members of the select board who voted against the declaration for the reasons that they wanted community engagement. I'm curious to know what those members of the select board did to engage with the community over the past 2 weeks.
I've discussed it with several other people in the community, and I also have had some messages directly to me from other community members. And I've also wanted more time to review all of these statements, which I have, to be sure. And that's one of the reasons that I came up with the fact that I felt that it was prudent to have our legal counsel review it. Frank?
Okay, Mike, thank you. Rich's point on the potential for a lawsuit, this can happen. Slander, libel, all kinds of words can bring up lawsuits, which can be actions or just words. And oftentimes, if the language is correct in the insurance policies, this can be covered. And the League of City of Towns covers virtually every municipality in the state. So any municipality with any language out there, whatever it is, then the League of City of Towns endorsing this, the policy had better defend against any, false claims or anything that could be a lawsuit. And if the courts decide that something was wrong and there's a claim to be paid, then the policy should pay out. So that's something that also approach that would address Richard's concern on the lawsuit which would come from Merrill's point of view as well, potentially, is if anybody were to take offense on this and sue, which they can, then obviously defense costs have to come from someplace, and that's usually the insurance policy. And if any court decides that there was some sort of prejudice in that statement which resulted in harm, then will the insurance policy pay out? And if the insurance policies, which hopefully are broad enough for the entire state of all the towns, as I would expect, hopefully, but I have never read the policies, then this should be something that would be that's why we have insurance. Okay, I just leave it at that. And no matter what, the statement should be around 2 words: peace and love. If you just said that, that means everything. All right, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe we should also send this to John's statement to the League of Cities and Towns, since they handle our insurance. I think that would be a reasonable second opinion on this subject. What does everybody else think?
Mike, this is Rich. I think that would be a good step to take, for sure.
Okay.
I'm sure they're dealing with this all over the state at the moment, so they should have some pretty good input.
This is Jessica. I can send it to the same person that I spoke with previously at Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Okay, thank you. Deb? Say we see some
Thank you.
hands up.
Thank you. I was having a hard time with my button. 2 things. Yes, Meryl is on a temporary leave, but I have found that she's pretty good at responding to emails. And going back to Jessica's recommendation earlier of making a motion pending the discussion with Meryl, and now you're adding VLCT into the mix. I think that is a way that you could potentially have this statement approved before your next meeting, once you have heard from Meryl and VLCT. Otherwise, you're now tabling it for another 2 weeks and another meeting that you have all of your comments, you have all of the discussions, everybody knows how everybody feels. So Jessica, I think, made a very good suggestion about making the motion pending the approval of our legal counsel and the VLCT. That's just my opinion, and for what it's worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Dan Brooks has his hand up.
Hi, Mike, thanks. I'm just curious when you sent the message to Meryl to review, because we've dealt with Meryl a little bit too and find her very responsive, and I'm just curious when
I think
she
I
got
sent
the message.
I sent it out yesterday after some points came up that I felt needed more investigation.
Okay, thanks.
And Mark McChesney has his hand up.
Hi, thank you, Mike. Mark McChesney here. I feel, folks, that we're kind of driving this with a fear of litigation. I mean, if I felt a fear of litigation, I never would apply for a liquor license, because I'd be out of my mind. Rich, if you feared litigation for having a truck run into a building, you would never get a CDL. Anybody in any business has to take a stand and has to say, come on, what's the big deal about having an inclusivity statement for our town? What's the fear of litigation over this? Let's be real here, please.
Mark, my question is, what's the big deal, waiting a few days for Meryl to respond? I mean, what's the big deal with that? I mean, this is a big responsibility. And what's wrong with waiting a few days to get Meryl's response? I mean, nobody's against this. We just need to make sure that it's right and that Meryl reviews it. I mean, what's the big deal with that, Mark?
Well,
I mean, sorry to interrupt you. We've been waiting for a response for over a month now. This has been on the table for a while, and it's just brought up that you want to talk with Merrill. He's just asking what the fear is. I don't know.
The fear is we have been elected to run this town, and it's a big responsibility. We don't take it lightly. I mean, this is a big responsibility for us.
I appreciate that, Rich, and I appreciate
The questions have to be directed to me to keep the order of the meeting,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
So you made your questions and we called on Rich to answer them, but we don't want to go on a back and forth. So I think that he was pretty clear that sometimes, and your points that you made, you're very well skilled and quite experienced in the business of running a restaurant, and Rich is very skilled and experienced in the trucking business, but none of us on the select board, I feel, are skilled enough in the business of legal business to review that statement and make sure that we don't make more trouble than we cure. So that's my point on it.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. And Mike, if I can reply to Rich. Rich, I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you guys on this, and men and women on the select board, putting your time in. It's such a valuable thing for our community, and we really do appreciate it. Rich, to answer your reply to me, yeah, I'm fine with waiting a couple of weeks, but let's put a finite time on this. Let's talk to Merrill and say, okay, we need an answer soon. I don't see any reason to drag this out. I don't really see, again, Rich, you said you're not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. There's no need to drag this out with this.
There's no reason that we shouldn't have an answer by the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have their hands up? Kristen? John?
Yeah. This is a statement. I'm not a lawyer. I did spend some time in Montpelier helping to make laws, but it is a statement. I didn't use legal terms. I don't know what the legal term is for neighborliness, for peace, tolerance, for respect. I know what standing up against, and I know what standing up for means. I don't need a lawyer to tell me that. I think it's a statement in the same way Pawlet made a statement by having meals for people that are in need. That's a statement. So I'm disappointed we can't agree on this now. But I think we've reached the threshold of knowing we need a statement. And I look forward to 2 more weeks of discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Oh, good.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was disappointed last meeting that we didn't pass this then, but I understood that we wanted to have an opportunity for everybody to read the statement, John's statement, which I think was very well written and perfect, actually. And I'm disappointed again that we're not going there this meeting as well. So I guess I would ask that, can we try to identify all the potential questions that need to be answered so we don't have to do this week after or meeting after meeting after meeting? I mean, we're just saying we include everyone. Why is this so difficult?
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, where
This is
are we
Jessica.
at now? Is
Can I
there any
just-
more questions or comments?
Yes,
Jessica?
can we just commit that we will vote in 2 weeks?
there's no reason why we shouldn't have all the information that we need unless anybody has any other options to put on the table right now. Does anybody see any reason why we should not be able to vote on this in 2 weeks?
Mike, this is Rich.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, we just want to be clear that it's John Malcolm's statement that we're going to be voting on. That's what's been sent to Merrill. I mean, if anybody else has anything that they want to add to it, I think right now is the time that should come up. And I guess we just need to use what John has and hear from anybody else that may have something else to add.
Okay, I feel that's important, and I also feel that everything that we have for options needs to be narrowed down to one option tonight. And I think that it seems that the statement that John drafted seems to be very popular and short of anything that we get from our two people that are going to review the statement. I think we should keep that as our option. Anybody else on the board want to comment about that option, or do we want to stay where we are at? Okay, Bob and Martha have a question.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Bob.
I think this has been a great discussion, and I want to support the idea and the motivation of John Malcolm. And subject to a legal review, you guys should be able to vote it in 2 weeks. And I 100% realize Rich's concern. And my gosh, you have so many different avenues of approval of these statements, from the state to other towns. So, but I really addressed John Malcolm's, how do you define, peace, love, the motivation is to do the right thing. And I think what John said really encapsulates the right thing. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
I'm all set. I just was gonna say some of the same things that they just said.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, just a brainstorm suggestion here. The select board can actually vote on something tonight, and that is that they endorse the language of John Malcolm's statement, conditioned on the approval of the insurance question or answering of the insurance question and the legal question, so that you're actually behind John's statement tonight, subject to only problems that might pop up with insurance or legal, which is doubtful potentially. But you're basically ironing it down that everybody, the select board, could be unanimously in favor of John Malcolm's statement, conditioned on those points, and make that a motion tonight, second it, vote on it, and boom, the next meeting, you get those answers, and it's just plug and play from then on, and it's a no-brainer. We're off to the races, problem solved. That's just a suggestion for debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add for this discussion tonight? Okay, we'll move on to the next subject. Thank you, everyone, for all your input on this past subject. Meeting norms and procedures. Kristen, where do we end up standing on that?
So after, this was something that I wanted to bring up. This is Kristen, and this is something that I was hoping to bring up at the last meeting. Given just the nature of a lot of the different topics that have been coming up, the library board had sent along to me on behalf on behalf of the select board, a list of rules and norms that they follow at the beginning of every meeting. And at the beginning of every meeting, they run through this list. And similar to how at the beginning of every meeting, I run through the whole, we're being recorded, say your name. This would be an add-on to that. And I've emailed this to the board, and I wanted to share it with you all to see if this is something that you feel you might be interested in having be a part of our agenda. The purpose is to really help everybody stay on track and to help everybody become aware of how the meetings operate and what the intentions of them are. So the list is as follows. As a board, we will focus on agenda topics, be open-minded, respect each other, value different viewpoints, be responsive and responsible to our community, make decisions based on data and facts, listen to each other, be reflective, run meetings that respect time and have concise agendas, and lastly, run a meeting that is transparent and follows Robert's rules. I don't know if that's something that, I don't know what you'd like to do with that. I just feel that there have been moments when the meetings get a little overwhelming and it's hard to, keep on course. And I just thought that reflecting on those rules and procedures or norms, I guess, rather, at the beginning of a meeting could be of benefit. And if the board feels the same, I would be happy to factor that into my bi-weekly spiel. And so that was all on that topic from me. Thank you.
Jessica?
This is Jessica. I'd like to note that was using norms like this was also part of the suggestion that Julie Mack and Rhonda Schlangen had for us when they brought their several points forward a couple weeks ago. And I know that I have had the suggestion, which has been partially followed, that the select board does have rules and procedures, which we have written out, and that the two of us who are new board members got sent to us and had to read over when we joined the board. And I think that those rules and procedures, if we did adopt these norms, we should probably put the select board rules and procedures in instead of Robert's rules, because we do have our own rules and procedures, which are slightly different. But also, I think that our rules and procedures should be a publicly available document on our website, because it would be helpful for the public to know these rules and procedures, because it does list quite clearly when people get to talk and how long they get to talk. And if you have a pre-requested appearance, you are able to talk longer, and so on and so forth. And I think that if we did norms like this, it would be helpful. And that also maybe a little reminder, particularly for those who might be new to coming to these sorts of meetings at the beginning of meetings, just to mention, people will be able to talk on this topic at this time. Because I know that I've had several people approach me and say, I wanted to speak, but I wasn't sure when the public was invited to speak. Were we only able to speak in public comment, or could we speak to the topic during the topic? And perhaps if those rules and procedures were also mentioned at the beginning of a meeting, it could be very helpful.
Okay, so we're at a couple of different points that come up here. Those are a little bit more elaborate or a little bit more, not elaborate, but just a little bit more specific than what Kristen had read off. For instance, like when the public could speak, and the time factor isn't in Kristen's story. But I feel that it's very important that if we do outline the whole basis for the whole meeting, that the structure will help it to streamline it and move along at a better pace. I'm in favor of that for sure. And
Mike,
and absolutely, I feel that they should be on the website, all of that information. But so maybe we need to blend a couple more points into what Kristen had proposed, or we could start with what Kristen has proposed, and as we work through it, we could do some amendments to it or something. What does everybody else feel about that?
Mike, if I may,
please.
So the rules and procedures of the select board, again, this is pre-COVID when we were all in the same place, when we used to pass around an attendance sheet, and the rules and procedures were attached to the attendance sheet and also posted in the town hall. So they have traditionally been made available. I do think it's a fabulous idea to add it to the website, and it would be quite easily done. And perhaps if it's added to the website, we might not need this list of norms, because I think that the select board rules and procedures do touch upon these quite a bit. But just with the topic of inclusivity and I think communication and kindness are two of the #1 most productive measures to get to a state of inclusivity. And anything that I might be able to do as the assistant who helps to facilitate, I would be happy to do so, and perhaps making a broad statement, or not broad, but making a statement such as this at the beginning of the meeting will just be a friendly reminder of the tone and the theme that we as a town would hope to see be prevalent throughout the duration of our time together. So I'm happy to not have to have anybody, do anything official about it tonight. I think I would be glad to put the rules of procedure up onto the website tonight, which I think, or send it to Sean, which would be a great first step. And maybe these don't have to be read aloud at every meeting, but I might just make friendly reminders in the chat from time to time if I feel I could help us stay on track. So mostly it was just something I wanted to bring up and share with you all, and something for us all to think about as we share this space together.
Okay, thank you very much, because I feel that will definitely be helpful. We can have that on the website so everybody is aware what the standard is for the meeting procedure, and then we can work at seeing what we'll need to address if we seem to have constant issues with certain systems. Then maybe we can just make sure we address it at the beginning of the meeting. Anybody else have any comments or questions for Kristen on that? Okay. New business. The COVID relief funds. Jessica, you said you were able to attend that.
Yeah, was anyone else on the select board also able to attend, or is it just me reporting back?
I was not able to.
I was
All right. Okay, then I will not feel like I'm boring anyone with these facts. Let me try to be fairly brief here, as there's not much that the select board immediately needs to do. The American Rescue Plan Act, which keeps getting abbreviated as ARPA, so if I say ARPA, that's what it is, gave $350 million total for state and local governments. And I'm sure everyone's been following in the news, if you're a news junkie like me, how the state legislature and the governor have been trying to work out how the state is going to spend the funds that it gets. And it looks like they're going to spend a good lot of funds on broadband, which will be very helpful for us, I'm sure. $58 million of that goes to what's called non-entitled units of government. And that means basically small cities and towns like ours. Larger cities such as Burlington get their own pot. And of course, larger cities in other states as well. And this money is coming to the state, to the agency of administration, but they're going to be doling it out specifically to each town, which means our town of Pawlet is going to get a significant lump sum of money. It will be delivered, half of it in May or June of this year and half of it in May or June of next year. We will have until the end of 2024 to what's called obligate this money in order to decide where it's going to go. And then we have until the end of 2026 to actually spend it. So it's not a really big rush for us to decide what to do with the money, but we should probably get started. The state cannot tell us exactly how much money is coming to us right now, because some money is going to the counties, and then the county money, because we don't really use counties much as an administrative unit here in Vermont, the county money may also then end up coming to the town as well. but right now they're telling us to prep for about $100 per person in the town. So what's our population here? Are we just above 1,000? You're muted.
14, I think.
77.
Yeah,
14? Well, if it was 14, we'd be looking at $140,000. So,
Wow.
yeah, so this is, yeah, it's not an insignificant amount of money. In order to get this money, we are going to need to request it through the Agency of Administration, AOA, which has a web portal. The exact numbers on how much we're getting should be coming the end of this week or next week. So then we can really begin to plan. We will need to designate a point of contact from the select board who can sign off on these funds. If we've gotten ACH, like automatic payments from the state before, into our bank account, they may have the info already saved. And if so, it will go a little quicker. If they don't have the info already saved, they're probably going to have to make some phone calls to get our account information safely because they want to avoid any kind of fraud or trouble with bank accounts. We also need to have what's called a DUNS, D-U-N-S ID. I do not, does anyone know if our town already has one of these IDs?
yes, we do.
Thank you very much, Deb.
Yeah.
Good, so we will have to have that available to access these funds as well. So we won't have to go ahead and get that. That's good. All right, on to what these funds can be used for. There are 4 major areas in which they can be used. And this is really quite broad, so there are many options ahead of us. We're definitely going to have to spend some time thinking this through. They can be used for public health, which is pretty much anything having to do with public health. They can be used for direct aid. This can be direct cash or loan assistance to people or businesses who were affected by COVID. It could be helping with housing, such as rental, mortgage, or utility payments. It could be something like we could augment the salaries of people who worked directly with hazards because of COVID-19. Those are all options. It can also be used for community and economic development. It could be used to work toward affordable housing. Someone mentioned things like acquiring rundown homes and revamping them. I'm not sure that 140,000 quite buys and revamps a home anymore these days, but it could be used toward childcare and education, toward buildings, or towards salaries for that. It can also be used for infrastructure. Now, it cannot be used for general roads projects. People ask this in the seminar quite a lot, and I know why. Roads is one of our big things. But it can be used for the following. It can be used specifically for wastewater, for the construction, improvement, or repair of wastewater facilities. And that's, I mean, I know that that might be one that we would consider. It can be used for stormwater mitigation and runoff. So it could possibly be used for things like culverts, many of the same things that Keith is able to get the funds for through like the clean water, through the state clean, where'd they say that? I have this written down. Anything that we currently are able to get through the revolving loan fund or the clean water funds for water, or we would be able to use this money for as well. We could use it, it can be used for anything regarding stormwater runoff or for climate resilience, like, you know, the things that we did after Irene. It could be used for those sorts of things to prevent flooding. It can be used for lead abatement in paint or pipes. It can be used for broadband, but it seems like it's somewhat limited what can be done with this money for broadband. It sounds like we might only be able to use it for 5G hotspots, and I don't think we can get a 5G here. Also, I know the state's doing a lot with broadband, so some town is going to use theirs for digitizing some town records. It would be allowed for that. It can also be used to make up lost revenue that we lost due to COVID-19. So this is a lot. There's many options. We will be getting technical assistance, both from Vermont League of Cities and Towns and from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. And they will be helping us to know if a project we want will fit this, and also giving us assistance in reporting and in financial and accounting assistance, because once we use this money, we will need to give an annual report as we spend it. Each year we'll have to do one report. And that's because we're a town under 50,000 people. If we had more than that, we'd have to do quarterly reports, but they have put in this thing for small municipalities that we won't have to do that. The things that is absolutely prohibited from being used for, I'll just go over those, and then I think that's about it for me. It cannot be used for federal matching for other funds. So unfortunately, we can't double our dollar in that way. It can't be used directly for pensions or for premium pay, and it can't be used to pay off existing debts or to be set aside for rainy day funds. And I think that pretty much covers what I have written down here. I'd be willing to try to answer any questions that people might have.
That seems like quite a lot of very valuable funds that we can use for several different projects. Nice. It's good that they gave us a little bit of a time frame for sure, huh?
Yeah, I can see that we're going to, and they did suggest that the best this was run by Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and they suggested that our best practices for deciding how to use these funds and then using them would be to be deliberate and strategic and patient, so that we really don't just use it for just, to pay something off that just comes to mind, but that we really get input from all the stakeholders in our town, and that we think about ways that we can use this money that will really be able to benefit us, not just in the short term, but going forward.
Excellent. Tom Collard has a question.
Yeah, Chairman Mike, this is for Jessica. Couple questions. You mentioned it was a two-part payout. The first one was going to be May, June of this year. What was the second part going to be?
This is Jessica. The second payout would be May, June of next year, and they are each 50%.
Okay, and the next part of that question, the town has till the end of 2024 to put a plan in place, and then the town has to 2026 to utilize it?
Yes, this is Jessica. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
This doesn't mean we couldn't use it earlier, but I think that this long-term, what they mentioned, this long amount of time was laid out in the law for the federal funds, so that, say people were going to do broadband or something, it might take a couple years to get the broadband laid down, and they wouldn't want to stop people from doing that because it was a long-term thing. Yes, I see in the comments that Harley has said obligate means beyond a plan. Yes, it was mentioned from my understanding at this meeting, obligate the funds meant to allocate them, to have a plan, and to have put the funds toward the thing. But you might not break ground for the project until 2025, and that would be okay.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions regarding these funds that Jessica learned about today? Oh, we'll have to keep working at coming up with a project list where we feel, we can see where we can do the most good and such, etc. Thank you for being able to join that meeting today and bring that back to us, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks. I was really glad to go to it. They said there were over 350 people there from all over Vermont. So clearly this is a need all over our state.
Good.
Mike, I have a question for Jessica. This is Kristen.
Yes.
Jessica, for the purpose of the minutes, would you feel comfortable with me providing your select board contact info for folks that might have questions or look for more details? Or is there a link that I could provide?
You may certainly give them my email. As of tomorrow, Vermont League and Cities of Cities and Towns will have the webinar information up on their website, but it's not there yet. So I will send that to you as soon as they message me that they put it up, and then everyone can go and look at this. It was about an hour and a half, so it is a bit long, but they also will have the PowerPoint presentation they did so that everyone can look at it if they'd like to.
That's great. I will wait on that then for you to avoid your inbox filling up, and I'll make that link. I'll make that link available via the minutes so that folks with additional questions can go and
Wonderful.
check that out. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else under new business?
Yes, this is Kristen. So Pawlet, the chief of the Pawlet Volunteer Fire Department, John Weiss, had sent an email along. So the Volunteer Fire Department maintains or is responsible for putting up and taking down and maintaining the flags that are on the posts on the roadsides on Route 30. The town is responsible for purchasing the flags, and so Chief Weiss indicated that we are in need of about 13 new flags and was seeking assistance in making that purchase. I was wondering, they're purchased, he found some on Amazon. I'm hearing that there's also perhaps a place called Saratoga Flags, and I've just heard from Julie, she is going to look into doing that tomorrow if the board is okay with the pursuing of that purchase.
Anybody want to make a motion in favor of buying the 14 new flags for this side of town?
This
The
is,
Pawlet Village.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. We'll have
Like this
Julie.
is Bob, I'll second it.
Okay. Rich and Bob have made a motion that Julie take care of ordering new flags, something that we've done right along. Any more?
Mike, before you make that,
Yes,
should somebody check with West Pawlet to see if they need any flags to be included in this purchase?
okay, yeah, I'm not, probably Dave Ricard will be the one we'll have to reach out to.
This is Kristen. I can also, John Weiss has emailed with me about it. I can write back to him with the results of the conversations tonight and ask that he check in with West Pawlet before coordinating with Julie to place the order.
Okay, that would be super. Dan has a comment, Dan Brooks.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, the monument in West Pawlet definitely needs a flag. I don't know if I'm sure that would have come on your radar, but that's one that definitely needs a flag. It's pretty torn up.
Okay, well, hopefully they'll have that all listed when they do the inventory of what they need in the West Pawlet side. Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion? Everybody in favor of buying the necessary flags to replenish the torn and tattered ones on the both of the villages? Rich,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous, approved.
Okay. Next up, I think the last thing is just the tax sale event space. Kim, the reason I'm bringing it up again is Kim Ayers reached out to me. I forwarded the messages along to the board members. I think I tried to get a little bit more clarification about it. The request, she's been in touch with Kevin O'Toole, who is in charge of facilitating the town's tax sales, and he is looking for some sort of a commitment from the town for a space for these to take place. I didn't have enough knowledge to remember what had been done in the past. For some reason, I always thought they took place outside, but maybe that's just something that I've created in my own mind. So I guess he's needing that. It's not until September. I just would like to be able to report back to her with something.
John, where are they usually held?
They can be held in the middle room if there's just one or two. That's what happened the last time when we purchased property. But we could say somewhere in the town hall, whether it's upstairs. Hopefully by then we won't need to distance, but there's plenty of distance up there.
Okay, so we should be able to have them in the town hall without any problems by by September, I would also feel comfortable saying that seems reasonable.
Okay, this is,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, John, were you going to say something?
Well, Deb's still on, whether she has an opinion on that or not.
I think a lot can happen between now and then, but I think that it's feasible to say town hall, because at worst case scenario, Kevin could be on the porch and conduct a tax sale. Typically, not many people show up at them, but there's options there on the town property that we could accommodate a tax sale pending whatever the situation is with COVID or not. So I think it's a fair assumption that the town hall property would suffice.
Okay, that sounds good. Do you want to reach back out to Kim and let her know about that, please, Kristen?
Yes, this is Kristen. I will relay the message.
Are you good with everything?
Yes, I think that is, I just want to make sure. I think that is all that I had on the agenda for us this evening.
Okay, so one thing that I wanted to us to start considering is the piece of property that we own next to the sewer plant that was the start of the rebuild of the store is looking pretty poor. There's a wooden structure over a foundation that's deteriorating. The trees are growing up and stuff like that. I think that right in the village center, it looks bad. And I'm curious if I don't feel my way around the grant process very well, but I'm wondering if we could even come up with something like a charging station grant or something like that for a car that we could put in there. It's right next to the rail trail, and it seems like it would be a great spot for something like that if somebody wanted to come, and if we could get a grant for a charging station or something, that would give us a opportunity to kind of spruce that space up a little bit. You know, maybe we could do something, have a couple benches there or something like that for people to just sit there and et cetera. But it just, I mean, the sewer treatment plant is a decent looking building, and Ray has a beautiful building right there. And then we have this mess in the middle that the town owns. It would certainly be nice if we could do something to at least spruce that property up. And maybe we can find something that would be useful and beneficial to the community and the rail trail, et cetera. So I don't know if anybody happens to see any grants out there that we may be able to look for, just to kind of keep something in mind. So I just wanted to put that out there. Jessica?
Yeah, this is Jessica. I really appreciate that idea, Mike. I'd also been kind of thinking about the rail trail, and if it was possible to get some benches put up for people to sit, especially now that we've got that Wi-Fi there, people might want to sit and, look at their email while they're hiking. And I will keep my eyes open for any sorts of grants that might be usable for that property. Do you know off the top of your head the street address of that property? Anyone?
I don't right now I can't even remember what the sewage.
But it's right
treatment
next to
plant.
the wastewater plant.
Yeah, it's that abandoned lot that the town kept when it came up for tax sale. Because if we have to do anything to add on to the sewer plant, we didn't have any room, so we felt it was in our best interest to keep that property instead of reselling it, so that if we needed to do anything different to the sewage treatment plant, we had a little bit room for change.
And
Deb has her hand up.
Yeah.
Jessica, if you want to touch base with me tomorrow, I can get that address for you.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. I guess I'm just thinking about the things we might need to know in order to look at grants. Also, West Pawlet is a designated village center, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. That's all. Thank you.
And I'll look around. I might be able to get some benches, at least one or two to start to put around the rail trail there.
Yeah.
So I'll see what I can find. I'm sure we can get some. Telescope has been very generous to a lot of the communities around it, donating furniture and stuff like that. So I think I'll talk to some people and see if we can get a bench or two to put there by the rail trail for people to enjoy.
Oh, and if everyone doesn't mind, I'll just have a very brief update on the Wi-Fi signs. It turns out I contacted Jill and there were no signs left about the Wi-Fi. So I spoke with Keith, and our usual sign vendors don't have any pre-made signs. So I took a photograph of the one in front of the library, and I'm just sort of making one, I'm sort of duplicating it, not with all the text, but just the way that it says the public Wi-Fi and has the little symbol. And so then once I've got that together, I'll send that that image to Keith, and he says he should be able to get a couple aluminum signs for pretty inexpensive just with that image on it. And we could put one up where that sign says rail trail, and then we could put one in that other little parking lot. I'm also going to print off that same image once I've got it on some paper to put up on the like rail trail information sign and in the West Pawlet post office. And I saw that Kristen put it out in the electronically for people to know about. So yay.
Very good. Okay, what else do we have? Nothing under new business? I guess we're down to public.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said that was all for new business on the agenda. Next up is public comment.
Okay. Does anybody have any public comment? Looks like Frank does. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, quickly, Mike. A number of meetings ago, I brought up the multiple Zoom accounts that the select board has, the planning commission has, and that the DRB has. And we never meet on the same nights, never have. And that the select board could whittle that down to just one account, save money, because the annual subscription is going to be coming due pretty soon. And we could start doing this right now, or you could put it on the agenda for the next meeting, as well as potentially discussing digital policy and record retention of not only digital, but also any paper records that need to be kept, so that I know Kristen discussed this, that she'd like guidance on this too, but it's not something that's going to be solved by 9 o'clock, which it is right now. So this could be an agenda item for next meeting. There's no rush, but just as a reminder. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Those are good points that we should keep in mind, please, Kristen. Maureen?
I have a question about sort of pertaining to the discussion surrounding rules and procedures, and also having to do with community engagement. So I'm wondering, my question is, since we're a small community, we tend to have a lot of individual phone conversations, you know, select board members and community members maybe speaking to each other about public community issues over the phone. And my question is are those types of conversations, and does the board feel that it's ethical after somebody has those types of conversations with a select board member for the select board member to disclose personal identifying information regarding conversations that have been had to other community members? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Only sort of, but I mean, with a small community, a lot of.
I can give you more context to it. That might want to be done in executive session with me.
But I guess my point is that if you bring something up to someone, unless it's, I don't know how a conversation can always be transferred unless it's told to be confidential. I don't really know.
So just to be clear, so we're all on the same page. So when a community member speaks to a public official in the role of being a public official regarding public issues, then it's ethical. The board agrees that it's, I'm asking, this is a question, does the board believe that it's ethical for the select board member to not only disclose the contents of their interpretation of a conversation, but also that specific person's identifying information?
Well, I guess if a
Their name.
individual, I really.
Would you like me to call you, Mike? I mean, would that be okay to
Well,
have a conversation with you about this? Because this is a personal thing that actually, you know, I could go deeper, but I'd prefer not to do this in front of everybody.
Well, what I will say, what I will say that if you bring up something to a select board member that has to do with the community, it would be public. So that's my feeling. So if they had it and they wanted to share it with others, I would feel that if you brought it up to them without.
Okay. What if it wasn't the actual version of the conversation?
Well, that's a problem with conversations all the time, that sometimes people's interpretation of what is said can sometimes be misconstrued, but.
This is Jessica. Can I just say a very brief thing
Go
on the
ahead,
same
Jessica.
topic? I've been wondering a little bit about this myself since I joined the select board, because I've had a number of times when people have phoned me or just spoken to me in person about something that they're concerned about. And I've often told them that I would bring the concern to the select board. But in every situation, I've just said a constituent spoke with me or a person from the town was concerned about this, because I wasn't sure if it was appropriate for me to say, so-and-so called me and was concerned about this. I mean, they didn't say it was confidential, but they didn't say, please use my name either. So I'm not sure if we have ethical guidance on that. That was something that the first time it happened, I was a little I was surprised. And I'm not anymore, because now I know people will call me, but I didn't know if we had any kind of guidance about the confidentiality or not of those. And again, I know that we're over time, so this is probably not a conversation for today, but maybe it is something to put on the future. Thank you.
So we could look into deeper and see how that all unfolds. Okay. I see Frank has a hand up and.
Yes, Kristen has a little booklet she's holding up, but the League of Cities and Towns and other towns around the state probably have addressed this same topic. No, they haven't.
I mean, not to interrupt you, but I did look in many different, I looked at the League of Cities of Towns. I looked at Vermont statutes. I contacted other select board members from other communities. And I also looked at various handbooks of select board members in various communities in Vermont, and I wasn't able to find an answer. So I'm wondering if it's something that the Pawlet Select Board can address and perhaps review their ethics policies to make sure that people can feel safe having a conversation with a select board member and knowing that that conversation, unless they give their explicit permission for their name to be, their identifying information to be shared. Because I think that's an issue where people are much less likely to reach out one-on-one, which is, this is the kind of community that we like to do that. We have those connections. You know your neighbor who is also a select board member and you call them. So I think it would create a bit more feeling of safety for people to have that connection with the select board.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Your point's made.
Frank.
So what Maureen is basically talking about is the select board adopt a privacy policy around this topic, more than likely. And Kristen probably has some input. She was holding up something there. Thank you.
Just thank you. Does anybody else have any public comment? Kristen, go ahead.
This is Kristen, just on that, I can look, I mean, there's a very, very thick handbook for the Vermont Select Boards, which might have something in there. And also in terms of like the ethics and the privacy policy, I can do some digging and see if there's anything that might address this, that then the board could be able to build upon and just acknowledge something that will work for our community. So.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, hearing nothing else, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Mike, this is Rich. I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Have a second?
Yeah, Jessica will second.
Thank you, Jessica. All in favor? Rich,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming. Motion approved. Have a great evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.